All right, what is up, everybody? ShowScout0013 here, coming in with a video for beginners who are looking to get into Legion and specifically into Rebels. So, if you're into Rebels and you're into Star Wars, I think Legion is a great place for you, and we have a lot to offer. So, we're going to talk about them and the faction itself, as well as the different battle forces and starter kits that it comes with. If you are interested in the long run, the links for the Discord and everything is in the description, and usually in all the other videos, the link to the list ideas that I create are also in the description down below. But if you want to get into Legion and find a good community, the big Discord is a great place to go, but also the Shadow Scout Discord is also great because you can also head over here to the Legion faction lists, head on over to Rebels where I'm at now. And if you've ever got questions on Rebels, if you are looking to take a list anywhere and you want feedback, or if you need ideas, this is a great place to go and to get ideas from the Discord. If you need to talk to anybody, this is a great place to talk to people here. And you can also just go to general chat. You can look at, the random stuff that's going on in Legion in general. If you are a hobbyist and you're looking to get into Legion, you can come over here and post the finished products that you guys have. People are very talented in here and have a lot to offer. So if you're looking at, needing inspiration, feel free to take a look at the minis that everyone posts here. And it's great to kind of show off the artwork that these guys have. And yeah, if you're looking for stuff, if you've got questions, feel free to go in here. If you want to win the giveaways and you need entries, a great way to do it is to be a subscriber and to leave a comment on every video. Another way to do it is to be active in the Discord. If you are active in the Discord, everything from right now, May 1st on, until the giveaway for the $25 gift card ends, if your name is here on the server level, all you have to do is interact in the Discord and your server level goes up. So the more you interact, the more chances you have of getting extra bonus points into the giveaway you can get. Another way to get extra bonus points and to get videos early is to head on over to the Patreon channel. This helps the channel and the giveaways. This just kind of helps me to offer a lot for you guys. So this is a great way to kind of support the channel and say thanks. There's so many different types of ways to do it. You can do it for like $1, $5. If you want to go all the way up to $25, that would be amazing. But no one's asking you for that. And you get a shout out at the end of every video. But yeah, I'll get straight back into the video for you guys now. All right, guys, check it out. All right, what is up, everybody? So Shadow Scout 0013 here, coming in with Voidwalker from the Discord.
Hello, everyone. Hello again. Good to be back.
Yeah, and today we are going to go over the Rebel faction and everything that Rebels have to offer, as well as, what type of, personality could be drawn to Rebels. And yeah, we'll go ahead and I'll let you take the floor now.
Alrighty, so since this video will be in the playlist following directly the how to Empire, I'm just gonna briefly touch base on the profiles. We dedicated quite a bit of time explaining them in depth in the previous video, so watch the previous video as well if you want a more deep dive. So 3 profiles we have a Timmy, Johnny, and we have a Spike. Briefly about Timmy. Timmy is the experienced player. He wants to experience something big, something flashy, and pretty much he enjoys also the social aspect of the game. He cares about the experience, both himself and the other players he plays with. And he's not really a competitive individual. He likes the hobby aspect, but he's more about the experience, the vibes. Then Johnny is the self-expression player who loves, turning knobs, figuring out the synergies. List building is his jam. Sometimes for him, when he makes the perfect list, that's the victory within itself. And if he wins or loses, he can take it or leave it. He loves playing. As I said, he loves figuring out all the things, but also maybe he can bring out some obscure things into the list. There may be the sleepers, or maybe like sleeper something that's not being as popular, but has a great synergy with the different aspect. This is something that, all right, this faction we're going to talk about does extremely well. And then he, again, with competitive, he's take it or leave it, but he loves just that figuring out stuff in the game. And then we have Spike. Spike is that competitive player inside you. He doesn't really care about the assembly, hobbying, or the social aspect of the game. That's not his jam. He is going to play the meta, and he's going to win. And yeah, he's just that competitive drive inside you. And what's interesting, I'm gonna say this again, and it's that Johnny and Timmy uh, perceive the game as they want it to be. Like they have their own ideas about stuff, how they want to see things. We do. Spike perceives the game as it is. So he takes the stock of the rules, of the information. It's like, all right, let's make the meta list. One more thing before we move on to the faction itself. Every faction has a Timmy aspect in it because, as an AMG, as a businessman, you need to, drive sales, and, big flashy things are usually what drives the sales. But some of the factions have more offsets to one or another. So when we mention that Timmy is always present, he's always present, but he might not be the highlight of the faction. And without further ado, let's talk about the second oldest faction in the game, the Rebels, or as I Empire player called them, the Insurgents. That's what they are, rightfully so. But the Rebels. So, what would you say it's like the defining thing for Rebels? Like, what would you say?
Just like real quick, I would. So like if you, because I know that there are in between, personalities and psyches for these factions, and so if you're a rebel player, can you and like so if I like the hobby aspect a lot, and I'm not a huge fan of the most competitive, I just want to have fun. Is that a combo of the two?
Yes, you would be definitely be the Timmy Johnny combo because you like the hobby aspect, presume with the army itself. You like to figure it out what works with each other. No, the team works, the synergies, the command cards, when and where to play them. So yes, I would say that's like the Timmy Johnny blend. Yes.
And then maybe I don't want a hobby at all. I want like some thematic lists mostly. I mean, I don't care about putting things together. I don't really care about, painting it very detailed, especially with like Legion. I know as long as you've got, a 3-color minimum at most tournaments, that's all you need. And so I don't really care about hobbying. I just want to make a thematic list and maybe get competitive, but at least, kind of stick to thematics because, as we'll talk about in a second, Rebels have a ton of heroes. So, like, what kind of personality would not really care about the hobby aspect, doesn't want to necessarily be too competitive, maybe a little competitive, but just kind of like, make thematic style lists?
Yeah. So there would be Johnny profile through and through with a bit of a spike sprinkled onto because you don't really care about the competitive, but you want to do the competitive. So there's the drive, and you want to do the knob turning. You want to figure out the synergy. So you are definitely 95% Johnny, 5% Spike right there.
Okay, so I guess then getting into Rebels, I think the defining thing about Rebels are the heroes and the tricks that Rebels have. Unlike Empire and unlike a lot of other factions, Rebels, their command cards are tricksy. Like that's I mean the best word I can think of. It's very uh, it's something that's going to throw your opponent off quite often because again with the amount of heroes that you can take, like between Han, Lando, Leia, Luke Skywalker, Ahsoka, Boba Fett, Cassian, Din, IG-11, Jin, Luke again, except the Jedi Knight version, R2-D2, Sabine Wren, and the Bad Batch. There are there's like maybe like 2 bounty hunters between IG-11 and Din, but other than that, the rest of them are just like heroes, and they're so cheap as well compared to other factions. Like if we were to just kind of quickly take a look at even Empire, like you're looking at 130, 105, 155, 110 and stuff. If you're looking at like Rebels, it's a lot cheaper at like 120, 90, 95, 75, 125. You've got, a little bit more expensive stuff like Luke Skywalker and Ahsoka because they're Force users and they are a little bit better. And then, the Bad Batch is pretty awesome, but everything else for the most part is fairly cheap. So you can fit quite a bit of, Rebels in there and make a list that is quite huge with a lot of activations. And again, their command cards can offer quite a lot of twists and turns for your opponent specifically. So I think that that's one of the most defining things. What about you? What do you think?
Say definitely 100%. It's the hero aspect, because if you are a new player or a player who's coming over from other tabletop games, and you are like, all right, I want to play like the the hero list, like hero. I would point you directly to the Rebels, because based on what we just talked about, you see that everything is slightly cheaper based on the commander and the operative side. But also, if you take a look down the line, you see that most of your core units are significantly cheaper than the Empire. Your special forces, your supports, even your vehicles are cheaper. So what I would say is that this is all designed for you to fully deck out your heroes. Yes, you still need to get your core unit requirement. You still will bring some support assets like ATRTs or maybe even the satellite gun. But the main focus is on the hero. So the points that you would otherwise spend on decking out your troops, like in the Empire, because if you see in the Empire plays more like your standard army, so it's like figure it out like what works together. Here at Rebels, we are playing with the heroes, and everything else is there to support the heroes. You don't really need to worry about, all right, I need to figure it out how core units will support the special forces. It's a ragtag band of rebels fighting the Empire. There isn't much of an army, which is also, I would say, greatly reflected in the models. Once you get your boxes and your trooper units, you will definitely see a variety. You have your humans, you have your aliens, you have your. They're all together. They're all bonding together to fight whatever's out there. So I would definitely say that it's the heroes, and entire faction is structured so your heroes can be fleshed out, because let's be real here, all your troopers or your special forces, sometimes even your support or even vehicles are designed to be shot at. So they take the heat off your heroes, they back up, they take the suppressions, and then whatever survives just pushes on to the points where the heroes get to do their big flashy splashy things. So that's what I would say. It's like the thing that rebels have. Also, something that must be said, and this is gonna carry over through the rest of this video, is that this year, as of 2025, rebels are a very competitive faction. They are one of the main stake factions that if you go to any tournament and you like look at like a top 10 or top 20, more than half of the people who played there have rebels. Then there are the clones, and then you see Empire, Separatist, and Shadow Collective somewhere there too. They are a very popular faction right now, which is going to also reflect on the boxes that we're gonna talk about in just a second. But I just wanted to say this before we go forward with everything. Speaking of, now, since we got it out of the way, what would you say it's like? Let's see what we can do.
Well, one of the other
Yeah, go
things I
ahead.
wanted to mention is
Yeah.
another huge difference between Rebels and Empire is Rebels have white saves for the most part, and Empire has a lot of red saves. And white saves are a little bit more finicky because you only have, out of a 6-sided dice, you have 2 sides, a block and a surge. And most of at least the Rebel core, do surge to defense. So you at least have a 2 out of 6 chance of, blocking versus, with Empire, they all have red saves, basically, and their red saves are a 50-50 chance of getting a save. So a lot of the times you are going to be hoping that with your white dice you get a lot of blocks. The other thing, though, is the fact that you can fit way more in a list with white saves than you can with red saves. So they're trying to balance it out that way. And so that's just another thing to be careful of. But there's more offensive power in Rebels than in some Empire stuff. So with Empire, they've got the armor. With Rebels, they've got the firepower.
Yes, exactly. And also something to keep in mind of, based on how before the Star Wars Legion was owned by the Atomic Mass Games, it was owned by the Fantasy Flight, and they released these factions in two. So you got your Empire and your Rebels, and then you had your clones and your Separatists, and you're gonna see certain design elements in both like mirroring each other. For example, for your core units, one of your last things you have are the Rebel Veterans, and once you get your Rebel Veterans, you also get the option to take. I think it's the Mark II blaster. It's kind of like their another trooper unit that you can take, right? It's like a little machine gun that can like hold down a certain area or create a kill box around like the objective. Empire has the short troopers, and the short troopers, once you select them in your army builder, you get the mortar. So you're gonna see these little mirrors in both of the factions that we talked about, and that we are talking about the rebels. So that's also something to keep in mind. You're like, yeah, that kind of looks familiar. Where does it's like, yes, it's you've seen it in the Empire, because Empire and the rebels were the first, and then all the other factions came. So yeah. Speaking of rebels, what would you say it's like your let's say your top three favorite heroes or operatives or commanders? What would you
Uh,
say?
well, I am very biased towards Luke, Operative Luke. So let me see. If I show you Operative Luke, so Operative Luke is very, very powerful with 7 health and 4 courage, which just means that he can withstand a lot of suppression, which is anytime that he is shot at with an enemy trooper shooting at him, if a hit is scored on the dice, then you're going to gain a suppression, and you can take up to 8 with Luke, as opposed to most of the like core units only having courage 1. So obviously he's going to be able to take a lot. Plus, Operative Luke, or the Jedi Knight Luke, is just superb. I am also very Din oriented, because having a bounty hunter and having the independent aim and dodge to get free tokens, and then when he moves he gets a free aim, and you can use those aims for long shot to increase this range from 1 to 2 to 1 to 3. So instead of 12 inches he can shoot at 18 inches if you spend an aim, and then you can spend another aim for lethal. And if you're getting an aim from independent and then you make a move, and then you shoot, then you've already got 2 aims to do that if you need, instead of re-rolling, because he already surges to crit, and he surges to defense with red dice. So you have a 70-something% chance of scoring a save on defense. So those are the top 2 there. And then I think for the third aspect, the Mandalorian Resistance is a huge, one that I like a lot, because I like Mandos, and Mandalorian Resistance Clan Ren and Sabine are also in here. But obviously, I mean, Din has a lot more options to choose from. So, like, if we were to just quickly take a look at Din, you can see all the possible upgrades that you can bring on him. And then Sabine is not the exact same. She doesn't have as much to offer, but eventually it will kind of turn into points wise something very similar, because then you can bring a flame projector and a jetpack, and he eventually gets up to like 129, and you want to bring the Beskar spear or the Amban rifle. The rifle is basically an auto wound, if you can score a hit or crit on a red dice, which is more than likely going to happen, or the Beskar Spear, which makes him a little bit more melee oriented and survive in melee against a Jedi a lot longer. And he can get to, 144, so kind of expensive. Sabine can bring the Darksaber if she wanted to, and then you're probably going to want to bring like up close and personal or something. You can bring an electro grappling line, which causes a unit to kind of stand still, or she can bring a combat shield and kind of have a shield that can recharge every now and then. So there's lots of options for her. But I'm a Din, Luke Skywalker, and like a Mandalorian Resistance, or even Cassian is a lot of fun to play. I know you've got Cassian and Jin, and the Bad Batch. It's so tough. If I had to pick more operatives, I'd have to go Bad Batch, Din, and Operative Luke. What about you? What would you pick?
I would definitely say, like, I would say that my favorite, well, in top three, depending on how I wake up, I would definitely say that the IG-11 is a very unique operative in this case. What's very cool here, what you're gonna see is that some of the bouncy hunters that you see in the Empire can be also used here in the Rebels. So Boba Fett, IG-11, and then it's the Din Djarin can be also used here.
We
Now,
just
what makes
have to,
yeah,
to state though that the Boba Fett is the different Boba Fett than the one in the Empire, but you still get to use a Boba Fett. This is the dad bod Boba Fett from
yeah,
Mando, rather than the Empire Strikes Back or Return of the Jedi Boba Fett.
yes, that's also very important. They get their flavor, they get their different flavors depending on which faction they play. But back on the IG-11, IG-11 is a very unique operative in this case because you can either he has something called an AI. And AI allows this bounty hunter to either take the bounty programming, which is the programming where you can choose to target either an operative or a commander, and you get specific keywords to your weapon. So if you pick a commander, your bouncy you get your all your weapons get pierce one. If you choose an enemy operative as your bouncy, your weapons gain suppressive, which is very powerful. This is his default option when you play him in the Empire. However, here comes the fun one. You can also give him a nanny programming, and the nanny programming allows you to bring, well, the Grogu. And nanny programming, what gives the IG, gives him the AI dodge and move. But we are bringing Grogu here, and Grogu comes with his unique abilities of his own. As seen in The Mandalorian, you can obviously also bring him with Din Djarin, where he makes Din Djarin just better, always in every way, gives him an extra health. But also with the IG, he gives him some nice bonuses. It marks you because the little fella comes with the Hansit keyword, which means that he is the target, but in return you get some very nice bonuses. Then definitely, I would say the Boba Fett. I like both versions of the Boba Fett because they each go for something different. The Empire Boba Fett goes for more like the offensive, up in your face kind of bounty hunter, and then here. He's not. He. I don't think he gets the bounty hunter, but he gets the independent standby, and with that, all the other bunch of keywords. So he's just a great guy to have around. He's one of the few heroes in the game who gets a lot of command cards to choose from. He and Darth Vader, maybe a few others, get a lot of them to choose from. So you can flavor your well, I call him a bouncy hunter, but in here he's an operative. You get to flavor him in a specific way. You can flavor him like the support guy, or you can put him more on the offensive. And then definitely, I think something very cool. You can bring the R2D2, the iconic robot of the Star Wars universe. He can, he repairs, he gets infiltrate, and he gets something called secret mission. Now, secret mission is a very fun thing because what it means is like you deploy your guy and you need to get him And you need to get him from your deployment zone into the enemy deployment zone, preferably alive. Only if he makes it there with 1 health, the mission will complete and it will score an extra victory point. So if your game is very slow and there isn't much of a scoring, 1 point can really make a difference. And he gets a counterpart in C3PO and he gets other bonuses. The other bonuses with, I don't want to say teamwork, but they work together very well. And I believe R2D2 is he and Padme are the only two operatives who get the secret mission. I don't think there is anyone else. Correct me if I'm wrong. So that's what I would say. Like these three fellows are my favorite.
Okay. Yeah, and I know a lot of people like Ahsoka, and so Ahsoka is also in Rebels and can do a lot, and she also pairs very well with Luke or anybody else because of her command cards and what she has to offer. So if you enjoy playing Ahsoka and maybe even Din, and you can have like a thematic style list there. If you wanted a Rogue One style list, you've got Jin and Cassian, and when you bring Cassian. Cassian has a fun thing, kind of like R2D2, where you've got counterpoint or counterpart with K2SO. So you can actually bring K2SO with you as well, and Jin. And, with the fact that it's a detachment from Cassian, it doesn't count towards your maximum in operatives. So you're only allowed to really bring 2 operatives, but with K2SO having a detachment with Andor, you don't have to worry about it. Also, with K2SO, he's got a weapon that, if Jin's included, you can reduce this card's points by 5 points. It's normally 10 points, but if you've got Jin, it's only 5. And it's a Pierce 1 and suppressive, which is really nice. And it's 5 white dice, but you do surge to crit. And teamwork is a very fun keyword that Han and Chewie also have. So Han and Chewie, he's got, a lot of good words, but Chewie has the teamwork to Han Solo. So anytime that Han Solo gains an aim or a dodge, Chewbacca is going to gain an aim or a dodge. Anytime Cassian gains an aim or a dodge, K2 is going to gain an aim or a dodge. And Cassian also has Tactical 1, so anytime he makes a standard move action, he's going to gain an aim, which will then give that aim to K2SO. And then K2SO can move and shoot and already have an aim. So there's a lot of good plays that you can make between the two. And again, very thematic between Han, Chewie, and Leia on Endor, or Cassian, Jin, and K2 with, Rogue One style stuff. You can do a Han and Luke if you wanted. You could do a Boba Fett and Din. The list goes on. I mean, there's a lot of fun things that you can do that I think a lot of people who like Rebels and the hero hammer style can play. So yeah, that's, I think, a very fun aspect.
Something that has to be set. The Bad Batch, we briefly touched upon it, but I'm going to just delve into them for a bit. Bad Batch is a very popular operative right now because it's not doing an operative, it's a group of guys, and then the little girl that run around the battlefield and cause mayhem. So when you are building your army, you can bring the Bad Batch. You get to play them in both the clones and in both the rebels. However, there is as we mentioned previously, if there are 2 operatives used in a different factions, they usually get like a different flavor. In this case, the Bad Batch gets to bring Omega, the little girl with the bow that runs around and kills people. So, and her gimmick is that usually in a game, your unit leader has to be at the half range from the objective to be eligible to score it. With Omega, your Bad Batch can actually score from a range 1, which is very cool, very competitive, and allows for quite a few tactical opportunities. Of course, you don't have to bring her, but she's only 10 points and she gives you such a great bonus. You should always bring her. However, you don't get the who's the who's the
Crosshair.
clone that does?
So you don't get to
Yeah,
bring Crosshair in the Rebel Bad Batch.
yes, but you get Crosshair in the clones, but you don't get Omega in clones. So that's the trade-off for playing this group. And then of course Din Djarin is also currently everyone's favorite because he's just such a powerhouse. I'm sure you can attest to how Din Djarin plays, but he's just a must take right now for Rebels. We hope some tweaks will arrive soon. But yeah, also something I would like to highlight about the Rebels are two of their unique battle forces. Empire gets, as we mentioned last time, Empire gets three, and all the other factions get two, except the Shadow Collective. So Rebels get two. They get the Echo-based Defenders, and they get the Bright Tree Village. I'm gonna start with the Echo-based Defenders. Echo-based Defenders box came out at the same time as the Blizzard Force, which they're the counterparts, which happen in the Empire Strikes Back, the Battle of the Hoth. This is the Defender Battle Force, and you get quite a few great command cards. And very interestingly, it is the only battle force that requires you to bring at least one support asset, which
And
could be the
501st.
tone.
501st you have
Yes,
to bring on.
okay, battle force. Yes, okay. And then the Bright Tree Village, which I say is my favorite of these two battle forces. You get to bring the Murder Bears in a very specific flavor. You can bring your Ewoks also in your standard army builder, but you can also bring them in the Bright Tree Village, which was released with the Return of the Jedi when the Return of the Jedi movie had the 20th anniversary. They got the release. Now, what's very interesting about the Bright Tree Village is the heavy or the vehicle slot. If you look there, you're gonna see Chewbacca, and it's like, okay, why is Chewbacca 150 points if he for operatives is only 90? You see, Chewbacca is actually riding on an ATST, so you can get an ATST from the Empire in your rebel army. However, this is a Bright Tree Village specific, so you cannot bring him in your Echo base or your standard army builder. What's very funny about this ATST is the keyword called incognito. Shadow, would you be able to tell the audience what the incognito does?
Yeah, so Incognito is basically a unit with the Incognito keyword. Cannot be attacked by other enemy units that are not within range 1 or 6 inches of it, and it cannot contest objectives and cannot provide backup. If a unit with the Incognito keyword ever makes an attack or defends against an attack, it loses the Incognito keyword for the remainder of the game, and then additionally, at the beginning of a unit with the incognito keyword's activation, it can choose to lose incognito keyword for the remainder of the game. So basically, if you want to stay hidden from your enemy, don't make an attack and or don't contest objectives. If you don't care and you don't mind having armor 5, which cancels 5 hits, and then anything other than that goes through, all crits will go through, and impact will be a big problem at some point with impact, because impact turns hits to crits if you have armor. But other than that, you're going to cancel 5 hits, and then it's 11 health, and then you break down at 8 health, which only gives you 1 action. But there's a lot that this powerhouse of a card can do, and you can also heal it if you wanted to by bringing Rebel Troopers and bringing the Astromech droid, which repairs up to 2 wounds, 1 at a time. So if you brought like 1 or 2 of those with Chewie, that's up to 4 health. So that could be up to 15 wounds that it can take before going down. And it's also doing quite a bit of damage because it's going to have Arsenal too. So it can shoot, basically 3, 6, 9 dice in one throw. So it's going to be doing quite a bit. But Incognito is very strong if you want it to be. And to have 11 health and not get shot at all for like the first round or 2, and then it starts shooting, that's at least 2 rounds you just bought where you delayed your opponent from being able to shoot you. And then again, chewing through armor with 11 health is going to be really tough. So Chewie could last a long time.
And it provides a great tactical play for you because, as I said at the Empire, when we talked about the Tempest Force, your opponent needs to make a decision to either commit to damaging the ATSTs from the get go, or he just lets them run around the battlefield causing mayhem. With this ATST, he can't. Your opponent cannot even target it in a round one. So your opponent can only pray that they survive.
And
Speaking of,
the other thing
yeah,
is that
what?
you can hide your opponent, or you can hide your own units behind it because it blocks line of sight. So technically, even though they can't shoot your ATST, if you have Chewie and you're hiding a unit behind the ATST, they can't even shoot that unit either. So there's a lot of hiding and a lot of good tricks that you can do with that.
Yeah. Speaking of thematics, I'm gonna briefly touch on the Ewoks, our favorite murder bears. The murder bears are very lethal, they're very strong, but they're also very cheap. You can either use them as chaff, so they just go out and die, they take the heat, or you can use them on the point holders, and because my favorite ability they have, you need to equip it. It will be in their training slot, and it's called the Insatiable Curiosity. This funny ability they have is that you bring your Ewoks, and then you set one aside. That guy is going to die, but in return, you choose if this unit made a contact with the enemy unit. For example, the Ewok ran into this Ewok squad ran into an ATST, for example, or maybe let's say a stormtrooper, or let's use a stormtrooper example. This one guy now dies, but in return, you disable something. You either disable the personal upgrade, either personal or the heavy weapon. I'm not really sure. But now, your stormtroopers cannot use their T-21, or maybe they cannot use their Imperial officer because of the curiosity on, or for example, if you run your Ewoks into the dewback, the pilot or the rider now cannot use his primary weapon, which is either the T-21, the RT, or even a flamethrower, which is very lethal. So you can sacrifice one of your guys to disable something in your opponent's army, but they have to be in the melee, which is, I think, it's very Go ahead.
No, sorry. You'd be canceling a heavy, a gear, or a weapons upgrade. So if you've basically got a stormtrooper unit with the T-21, you take the T-21's ability away, but not the mini. So you still have your opponent still has that mini, but they can't use the heavy gun. They're gonna have to use the white dice that's on there instead of the 2 red dice. With the gun upgrade, this could apply to what we were talking about with K2. K2 can bring Jin's blaster. Well, if you use Insatiable Curiosity on K2SO, well, you take away that blaster now, and he no longer has a weapon. And then maybe you get up to an ARC Trooper squad for Republic, and they've got emergency stims on them. Well, now you can just take off that emergency stims, and they can no longer use that either. So that is going to be a very powerful keyword, or a very powerful upgrade coming up soon, because a lot of people are beginning to really bring and understand the power of emergency stims.
Yes, and one very unique thing rebels get are the Tauntaun riders. Now, Tauntauns are a menace because there are 2 in a squad. They each have 4 health, and they are just loaded with keywords. Well, they are very lethal in the melee, and you can give them an upgrade that allows them to spend dodge tokens to against the criticals. Usually you cannot spend your dodges against the criticals, but with the outmaneuver that people usually take them on, now you can make them even more lethal, and you get to dodge the crits, which is insane. And I don't like them because they run into my shore troopers all the time and just wipe them off the face of the earth. So yes.
Yeah, they've got a very good keyword called RAM that whenever you basically get to make a move, you can modify your dice to crits. So if you rolled 2 blanks and you've each mini, there's 2 of them, have ram 1, so you can technically take 2 of your dice and change them to crits if you're in melee. And their blaster pistols are only range 2, which is only 12 inches away, and it's 2 red dice each, so you're rolling 4 red dice for the unit when you have both of them. But with Relentless and Speed 3, you can basically move 16 inches and then shoot another 12 inches away. So you've got a pretty decent range still on them because of the fact that they're so fast. And 8 inches is for, I should say, a mini trooper, which is speed 3. They're going to be moving more than 8 inches on their base. So they're going to have a very, very big threat range because, again, at least 16 inches, probably up to close to 20 plus another range 2 shot. It's awesome. And Relentless, they can either, it's a free attack action, so ranged or melee. So that gives them basically charge or steady keyword. And it's so nice. And being able to double move and shoot and gain 2 dodges and then being able to, take a shot is so good.
I would like to also give a shout out to two unique vehicles that rebels have access to. They are the 2 speeders. They have the T-47 air speeder, which made appearance in the Battle of Hoth in the Empire Strikes Back. And then the X-34 land speeder, as I call him, the Luke land speeder. But I was recently told that this vehicle was also used in the Rebels show by the Rebels. So what makes them unique is that they get the speeder keyword, and the speeder keyword mandates them that they make a mandatory speed move they have before they do any other action. And let's just use the T-47 airspeeder, for example. It has a speed 3, so you are already zooming around the battlefield at a speed 3, and you still have 2 actions left. So if you really need to get on the objective across the other side, you can just move 3 times. Well, you move 2 times plus your mandatory speed, and you are on the other objective right there, and you are contesting it. What also makes it very cool, it has quite a selection of pilots you can choose from. You can obviously take your hot shot, which means your weapons gain a sharpshooter. You can also gain the speeder jockey who gives you the cover 1, which is also found on the patrol ship. And then you get a selection of the field commanders, which each get their own unique abilities. And of course, thematic to the Battle of Hoth, you get either the ground buzzer, which is the minigun, or you get the harpoon, which is you are just throwing 1 red die, but it's more about the impact and the tow cable keyword, which I believe hands out immobilized tokens. Would you be able to double check that for me?
Yeah, I think that it hands out an immobilized token as well as, if I'm not mistaken, let's see. So, tow cable, let me just read that one real quick. So, after a vehicle is wounded by an attack pool that included a weapon with the tow cable keyword, the player who performed the attack can perform a pivot with the vehicle that was wounded. And then I thought that it also gave it an immobilized token as well, but I'll make sure to double check that a little bit later.
Maybe it doesn't. Maybe they changed it recently, but you get a free pivot pretty much, as you saw in the Empire Strikes Back when the T-47 is running circles around the AT-AT and then zooms off. It's pretty thematic. I also want to touch up on the land speeder.
It will
Yeah.
gain an immobilized token. Sorry, I just checked that.
Okay. All right. Okay. So yes. So imagine your T-47 is zooming across the battlefield. You damage the opponent's vehicle, and now you also give him a mobilized token, which is not fun to have. But touching up on the land speeder is kind of like your let's call it the mobile platform, because you get quite a few. Well, you only get 2 weapons to choose from. You get either the ion blaster, which is great against vehicles and against the separatists, because they are almost all droids, and all droids are allergic to ion, or you just get the Mark II medium blaster, which you can also find with your rebel variants, and that just throws out black dice. But the fun thing here comes with a true selection of pilots. You get quite a few pilots to choose from. So you get, for example, the A30 A300 gunner, which throws out more dice. You get the guy with the rocket launcher who gives you the impact, or you get the unstable astromech. There is quite a few ways you can customize your gun platform or your Luke's speeder. Also, what's very cool, both Rebels and the Shadow Collective, they get the speeder truck, or as we call it, the battle bus. And the battle bus is great because it's a large model. I think it's that and a patrol ship that are the largest models in the game, which
I think
specifically for the
I think the snail tank is the longest base for sure
oh,
in
okay, all right.
CIS.
But with that, you can do some very cool strats. Like, for example, you can hug two objectives at the same time, or you can make the line of sight blocker with your bus to give your troops more time to survive, or your heroes for that matter, since we are playing rebels. So there's just a great selection of vehicles to support your heroes, and then of course you got your supports. You got your satellite dish, which is the only unit with the stationary keyword, which means you just put it down in your deployment zone and can engage enemies at, I think, it's range 5, which is like 3/4 of the map. So it's very strong. And then, of course, you get your very popular Rebel ATRT. Both clones and Rebels get an ATRT. They each have their own unique differences. I think the clone one has red safes and the Rebel one has white safes, but I think the Rebel one has a search to crit. Is that correct?
That is correct.
Yes, and then of course with every army except the Shell Collective, you get to bring your mercenaries. So rebels get to choose their their pikes, but honestly, you don't really need them to bring because you have such a great selection of your core and special forces units that you don't really need to bring your troop mercenaries. Speaking of special forces, the current menace on a competitive play. Would you able to introduce this lovely group that came out in January, Shadow?
I absolutely hate playing against this because they can be so good. If you don't start to shoot them down first, which is already going to be tough because of the amount of dodges they can generate and aims they can generate, but they're going to be throwing at least 12 black dice at you and surging to hit, so which is greater than a 50-50 chance on each dice of being able to get you. So most of the time, I'm looking at 10 hits coming through, if not all 12 at some point. But yeah, so the sleeper cells, which is from Andor. So with the sleeper cells, basically you've got Nimble, Scout 2, and Tactical 1. For having only 3 keywords, it wouldn't seem like they would be such a menace, but they are helping to win a ton of tournaments. In the top 8, every single list that is Rebels has probably at least 2 Rebel Sleeper Cell units in them, and they are making some crazy gains. So if we just take a look at the Rebel Sleeper Cells and what they can bring, so they can bring a Rebel Marksman, which you don't see very often, ever. And so, I mean, yeah, you get to basically take an action if it's not engaged to just, if there's an enemy trooper in line of sight, you can roll a red attack dice. If the result's a crit or surge, the unit's going to just suffer a wound and gain a suppression. But that's an entire action in itself. Most people, if not everybody, is just bringing the Astromech, which is just a non-combatant, so it cannot throw dice, but it doesn't need to because you're already having 6 people in the unit that are throwing 2 black dice at range 1 to 2, so again 12 dice. The Astromech, though, is when this unit ends a move within range 1 of 1 or more objective tokens, it's going to gain a dodge. And with the fact that it's got Scout 2, Your first move onto the board next to an objective at range, if you're range 1 of an objective, which you can cohere, which just means that you can place a mini forward into range 1 of a POI, you're going to gain a dodge. And then you make a second move, which is at range 1 of a POI, you get a second dodge. And then maybe you take a dodge. So round 1, you've already got 3 dodges. And then with the keyword nimble, anytime they spend a dodge, they get to return that dodge and keep using it. So these guys stay alive unless you have a keyword with high velocity, in which it negates them being able to use a dodge, but it's not like you're bringing a ton of high velocity all the time. So they're always spending dodges, staying alive, and then when they get to range 2 of you, or you're trying to engage your enemy, they just unleash a hellfire storm of black dice at you and basically take out an entire unit, which is why they're doing so well. And the astromech is only 5 points, and so to bring 7 minis in this unit, it's only 75 points. So that's not much at all. And there's really nothing else you need to bring on them. But if you wanted to bring something on them, with Tactical 1, they make a move and gain an aim. There's no need for that. You can bring targeting scopes if you'd like, which gains Precise 1, which means that when you spend an aim token, you can reroll 3 instead of 2. And so if you've got that, you're going to be rolling quite a bit of dice, getting quite a bit of hits through, and demolishing your opponent, which these guys can do very, very easily.
Or you can commit to the dodges, and you can bring situational awareness. And situational awareness is an upgrade that gives a unit an outmaneuver, which means they have to dodge crits now. So you can save one of your dodges for a crit if you bring outmaneuver, and they are in cover. So they are just very fun to play against and very fun to pilot.
They're so hard to play against. But if you are a Rebel player, you are bringing them 100% of the time, because why not? They're so good. So good.
You are handicapping yourself if you are not bringing them. Bring them. However, do note that you cannot bring them in the 2 battle forces. Thank God.
Yeah.
But bring them. You need them. Also with the special forces for Rebels, you also get Wookiees. But Wookiees don't really get much play with the Rebels. They are much more popular when we're going to talk about the clones or the Grand Army of Republic, because there is the Defenders of Kashyyyk battle force, or I believe so, yes, and where you can just bring Wookiees and mix them up with your clones. But we're going to talk about clones next week. But Wookiees are just your standard, 3 health monsters that run into you and will chop you to pieces. Yes, because everything is a close range these days. Every objective, so you can just bring in your Wookiees and just chew through whatever is trying to hold the objectives, like my stormtroopers the other day. So it was very painful to watch them die, even with the red save units. But anyway, let's talk briefly about the command cards. What would you say are your top 3 command cards for Rebels?
Han Solo has a command card that is extremely good, and his command card is, I think, the Change of Plans, which basically, when this card's revealed, you can discard it to return an opponent's command card to their hand and have them select a new command card as well as you. So basically, if they play their 1 pip because they are ready to go ham, like Vader has Implacable, which just means that he can take a wound and put his token back into the bag so that he can go again. Well, you can say, not today, Vader, and basically play Change of Plans and have Vader or your opponent pick a different command card and completely throw off everything that they were going to do. So that is one of the fun little things about Han Solo. I think Jyn Erso is very good with her command cards. So basically, When you play Jin Urso, I'm trying to get her. I'm sorry, gotta hit the plus sign. She can do the I Rebel. So when your opponent is about to rally, before its rally step, so whenever you're going to roll for suppression, so whenever you draw an order token and you're ready to go with a unit, Jin's going to say, not today, and she's going to rush in, make a free move action, and can make a free attack action against that unit and possibly delete the unit off of the map before you go with them. So that is another way that it's very tricksy. And I should say that I think Lando is another person who has some amazing command cards. He has something called Ace Up His Sleeve. So when you're building a command hand, this card is going to change your command card. So say that you wanted to play, Reckless Diversion. It's a 2-pip, and your opponent plays a 2-pip, and you tie. Well, you're like, okay, wait. I don't want Reckless Diversion. I want this card, which is a 1-pip, so it's lesser than the 2-pip that your opponent played, so you get to go first. And now on top of that, you still get to hand out 2 orders instead of 1 order. Most 1-pips, which only hand it to that one person, you still get to hand it to 2. And so you get to kind of control what is going on. So I think those are the biggest command card, tricksy command cards that you get to play as Rebels that are just so good. And I mean, Sabine's 1-pip is pretty fun as well, getting to throw bombs everywhere. But what about you? What are your command cards?
It's very difficult because, as you said, they are all very situational. But if I have to pick, I would definitely pick from Leia. Leia is a great support commander that gives out more dodges and is just a great girl to have around. But I definitely must say that No Time for Sorrows is a very great card, which pretty much Leia gives orders to 2 troopers, and these 2 troopers can move up. They make a free speed 1 move. Then for Chewbacca, I just like Chewbacca in general because if you bring Chewbacca, he gets a lot of teamwork-esque cards. He pairs up great with other heroes. For example, the Common Cause is Chewbacca and Luke Skywalker. Brains and Brawn is Chewbacca and Leia. And Notorious Scoundrels is Chewbacca and Han Solo. I would like to highlight this card. With this card, it's a 3-pip. You get your orders to Chewbacca and Han Solo. And then what you do, you choose one of Han Solo's command cards in your discard pile, aka the command cards that you already used, and you return it back to your command hand to be used next round. So you get some great synergies with Chewbacca's command cards. And then I would just like to highlight Wicket as the leader of Ewoks and his courageous counterattack. The courageous counterattack is very fun if you commit it to the murder teddy bear lifestyle. You pretty much what it does. It gives the order to the Wicket and 2 Ewoks, could be either the slingers or the trappers. Well, either the core or the special. But what's funny here for this round, these guys have an infinite courage, so they cannot be suppressed, they cannot be panicked, and then these guys, when they attack and have a face-up order token, for each wound token and a miniature from that unit that they lost beforehand, you add the 1 white die to the pool. So this is your very strong offensive card that you can just throw these little suckers at your enemies and just nuke them off the face of the Earth or whatever planet you are fighting on. So I would say these are the 3 my highlights, but there is obviously so many great to choose from, like your generic card, Sabotage Communications. You give the order to your operative or your special forces, and then when your opponent issues orders with their command card, they can only issue 1 order with that card. So let's say you have I think there is, let's use the pin down command card from the Empire, which gives orders either to 2 vehicles or 2 support assets with if you play the sabotage communications, your opponent now can only give one order, one vehicle, or one support. As I said, this is a very situational card, like all of them are, but they are great.
And
And that's what Rebels. Yeah, go
if you're
ahead.
going up against Yoda, Yoda has a 3-pip that gives it to every single unit.
Luminous beings. Yes.
Yeah, so you can completely cancel out luminous beings by playing this card. And most of the time, people play luminous beings round 1 so that they have perfect order control getting onto the board. So if you played this round 1 when they played luminous beings, then you're basically negating their entire order control. And who knows if they're going to play that again. But we'll get into that one because his command cards cycle and can be used all over again. So you might not want to use it round 1, but most of the time they're only going to use it round 1. And yeah. That can be tough.
So yeah, so with this grand talk we talked about, what we are trying to say here is that two type of players who will very enjoy this faction are Johnnies and Spikes will very much enjoy this faction because as we talked, there are so many for Johnny, there are so many great synergies with Rebels. All your units are significantly cheaper, so you can flesh out your heroes and your operatives, and there are so many teamwork synergies. All the command cards work with all the heroes. It's just great. And then Spike enjoys it because you can make very strong competitive lists because everything is so cheap and everything is so many great synergies. So Spike will be very much at home here. He will love it. And Timmy is always welcome because there is an entire hero pantheon that you can choose from. Of course, you get your ATST in the Brighter Village. And there are so many great things on the horizon for this faction as well, which I think greatly segues us into how to actually get into this faction. Now, as I said previously, Rebels are very popular right now competitively, which means finding some available stock for Rebels will be more difficult, but let's take it from the top. As with the Empire, Rebels are also getting their new starter set, or the Recon, which is gonna contain Luke, it's gonna contain Rebel Troopers, Commandos, I want to say Pathfinders, rest in peace Pathfinders, Rebel Commandos, yes, they recently also got the axe like Palpatine. But anyway, you get your Rebel Commandos and you get your Wookiees. I don't know if the Wookiee warriors. Yeah, they're the same model. Yes, yes. So you get these four guys to play your recon mission against the other units, which is I would say a very great start to the army. With that, let's rewind the clock a bit for the before this new or what you can buy right now. It's going to be slightly more difficult. I looked around before we started recording. You can still find it. It could be slightly more expensive, or you will have to look at the second-hand market. But let's take it from the beginning. So when they first released Empire and Rebels, they had their starter set. So it would be you and your friend who would split this box, and if you chose Rebels, you would get Luke Skywalker, 2 Rebel Troopers, and ATRT. Your friend would get Darth Vader, 2 Stormtroopers, and the speeder bikes. So this would be your introduction to the Legion. You can still find halves of the starter set on eBay and maybe some other sites. I think I saw one today on the Frontline Gaming store. For those who don't know, Frontline Gaming is the largest secondhand store in the United States. I will also like to say that we live here in the United States, so our point of reference for pricing and how we get things will be different. For example, people in Europe might have a different secondhand store that we don't know about, or maybe people in Australia, Asia, situation is a lot different. But as we are talking these prices and where to find things, we're gonna talk about here in the US. But do let us know in the comments below if you are a viewer from outside of the States, and how do you get your Legion stuff. And speaking of comments, do also let us know what kind of player you are. We completely forgot to ask you that in when we talked about Empire, but we're gonna remedy the situation now. Okay, so with that out of the way, let's talk the main box, the Echo-based Defenders, which is a very good box. It's going to be very hard to get. Well, it's not going to be hard to get. It's going to be slightly more expensive to get because Rebels are very popular right now, as I mentioned previously. So in this box, what you get Leia, you get Chewbacca, you get C-3PO and R2-D2, you get either 3 or 4 Rebel variants, you get your Tauntauns, and you get your Satellite Dishka. And that is a great start with combined with the stars that you already have. It's absolutely perfect because you get your Luke, you get your Rebel Troopers, your AT-RT, which is just a great thing to have. And then you get your Rebel variants, which they are not really competitively viable, but they are very strong nonetheless. And on top of that, you also get the little machine gun, the Mark II blaster. I'm forgetting the full name. So you get quite a good spread with the army. Now, but this is now, if you would buy this now, this is going to get a bit tricky because with the new starter set, as I mentioned, you will already get Luke, and you will get your variants, not variants, your troopers, your commandos, and your Wookiees. So you would double up on Luke. So you could use him elsewhere, would be a different model. But also, what's very important, the Rebels are getting, I don't know when, but I don't want to say, I don't know when, but they're getting the Heroes of the Rebellion pack, which I don't know if it's like the overhaul for all the heroes. It will be like, you seem to know what it is. So, what is the Heroes of the Rebellion pack or the models?
Yeah, I think it's basically you're going to get Luke, Leia, Han, and Chewie in that Heroes of the Rebellion starter pack or expansion. So you're getting a lot of heroes that you can use whenever you get it.
Yes, so you are kind of on the crossroads right now. You either get your rebel, so either you get your rebel boxes now, like you find a half of the starter set, you find your Echo base, and you buy some separate models from all over, or you wait for when the starter set releases, and as we speak, every quarter, Atomic Mass they release new models, so there will be always something new for the rebels that you can buy. So it's going to be really up to you. If you choose to buy things, choose to get into the rebels right now, it might be more expensive. However, I'm fairly sure you can find deals online. Always support your LGS or your local gaming store. They could have the box that you're looking for, your Echo-based Defender, somewhere in the back. Just you gotta ask the cashier or the store owner. So just look around for a good deal if you want to get into the Rebels right now, because the prices what I saw for the Echo base are steep, to say the least, and we like to say that the Legion is a very affordable hobby to have. So either buy them right now, find a great deal somewhere on the internet or the Frontline Gaming, eBay, or somewhere. You can also 3D print if you have a 3D printer. Otherwise just wait for the new releases that are coming soon. It's not as easy to say as with the Empire. With Empire you can still find the Blizzard Force. You can still find it stock in most of the shops I looked around. So yeah, that's the buyer's advice for this faction as of right now. But I'm fairly sure when they release the new boxes and hopefully new battle forces, hopefully we get the Bright True Village battle force. Hopefully one day, you will be able to get your stuff then. So, but as of right now, buyers beware because it's very expensive right now for Rebels. Other factions, we're gonna talk about. We already talked about the Empire. You can get into the Empire right now. I believe Clones 2 I'm sure separatists are always around, and Shadow Collective has a great starter box about which we'll talk about in a few weeks. But yeah, I think that's all we have for Rebels. Is there anything else you wanna talk about for
Yeah,
Rebels?
I think that we covered it all, and I think that if you're looking for some very fun hobbying and you're looking for some very fun list ideas and combos, the Rebels is a good faction to get into. So I highly recommend them. And yeah, that's mostly it, guys.
Yeah, and with that, thank you guys for watching us. Please watch all the videos because we only have 5 factions, and knowing your enemy is half the battle. So watch all the videos here, learn about the game, and yeah, please join the Shadow Scout Discord. We got the Patreon, all the good stuff. But I'll leave this pleasantries up to you, Shadow. Thank you again for having me. I'm having blast recording these videos and talking about my favorite tabletop games.
Yeah, same here, man. It's also fun to talk about Legion, and like if you ever need list ideas, if you've ever looking at a unit that you are interested in, there could be a video that I've already made that covers them. If not, you're welcome to join the Discord. All the links are in the descriptions down below, and you can request videos. I'll take any of those. If need a reference to something, you can just look on the playlists and try to find something. I'm going through all of the units again after the update so that you can get 1,000 point list ideas. So yeah, if you ever need help even building a list, you can head on over to the Discord and check that out. And that is it, guys. So thank you all for watching and joining. Hopefully you're interested in Legion enough to get into one of the factions, including Rebels. You're probably going to get into multiple factions. But yeah, we will see you in another video soon. So thank you guys for
Yeah,
watching.
and we gotta talk about clones.
Woo!
So stay tuned.
Yeah. All right, guys. Thanks for watching. See you later.